Hello, YouTube. I am back uh, at Self Healer Network, and we have some good things to talk about today. So, today we're going to talk about some of the types of narcissism I have dealt with in my immediate family unit. Um, my father was a malignant narcissist. Some will definitely say that it's the worst. It's definitely one of the worst, depending on the severity. Um, Malignant narcissists are, highly probable to commit acts of domestic abuse, physical violence, as well as like the normal emotional, verbal abuse, coercive control. So that's, I'm saying, um, how do I want to explain it? Coercive control, trying to manipulate you into coming back into the relationship, whether that's threatening bodily harm, threatening other people in your family to get to you, threatening your job. Um, Personal experiences for me, like my father was definitely one for domestic violence. Growing up, it wasn't uncommon to see, him and my mom fist fighting, um, him with almost no provocation, hitting us as little kids, okay, spanking your kids one thing, but to like fight a child like they're a grown man, like closed fist punch them, yeah, unacceptable. Anytime that we had left and moved out, he had tried to break into our home. Him, his mother, and his siblings would call my mother's work trying to get her fired, which she was the only means of supporting us kids. So that would have been detrimental. Harassing phone calls, harassing messages left on the answering machine, um, threatening that if we left that he was going to kill me and my two siblings, etc. Menacing, stalking, following you around in public. Um, this this motherfucker. Um, One of the times my parents had split up, he coincidentally lived across the street, which was where his sister lived. And one of the many times that my parents got back together after all this, we had found a notebook to where he was writing down everything. I mean, he had when we left the house, when we came back, who left, whether we all came back or not, which direction we went. Did we have grocery bags when we got home? How many did we have? Where did he think we went? He would go across the street and steal our mail. Like, and this was months of just sitting watching. Like, my cousin lived there because my aunt, who my dad lived with, um, my cousins also lived there as well. And they said that after or during that he would sit at the bottom of the stairs in the front window with binoculars and just watch us constantly, just to try and find something, just to use it against us, just to instill that fear and that just in general, like violation of privacy, that uncomfortability, like this is what you get for trying to get away from me type of thing. My mother is a vulnerable narcissist. So it took me a long time to kind of figure out what she was about. Um, I'm not sure on like the complete correlation, but also I want to say vulnerable and covert narcissism are similar, maybe even the same thing. But vulnerable narcissism, so a lot of time, they're the victim to everybody type of shit, like woe is me, the whole world's against me, everyone's against me, everything bad happens to me, only bad things happen to me, everyone has it better than me. Um And that became a problem because, okay, for one thing, she was an enabler through and through, still is. So she was getting a certain kind of abuse, obviously, from my father that we're all also getting. But then, and regardless of the reason, because I will go into a little bit about explaining these people as well and what might have led to that. But I don't care about your background. I don't care what you've been through because there's lots of us that are traumatized or have been in abusive relationships or family dynamics and we don't hurt other people. It's never acceptable. It never acceptable. No ifs, ands, or buts. Um, So it came down to the fact that, okay, we are all going through something. We are all being extremely abused physically, sexually, verbally, emotionally, all of that. But then she would stay for her own comfort. She would enable him for her own comfort. And that meant us, the children, being put in harm's way because of her comfort level. Oh, it's not that easy to leave a domestic violence situation. Oh, yeah. Yes, manipulation, gaslighting, coercive control, smear campaigns, all of that make it very hard to leave. But regardless, they were the adults, we were the children. They were responsible 100% for our safety and our care, and they failed at that. Regardless of anything, they failed. It was their responsibility and they failed. Um, and that also led to things like, maybe we try and bring up something, oh, hey, mom, like, dad's beating the shit out of my sister, like, come break this up, whatever. But because he wasn't on her, oh, just tell her to get away from him. Most healthy parents, if they were to learn that the other parent was physically or psychologically abusing one of their children, no hesitation would jump in. That would be the end of it. That's not tolerated. Um, my sister, she is also a malignant narcissist. And again, we're talking menacing, stalking, smear campaigns, coercive control, physical violence, sexual violence. Um, and we'll get to something interesting about that because having two types of the same narcissism and then in all three narcissistic people in my family, that's just a bad reality TV show. But how I navigated it in my childhood and teens. So having two malignant narcissists and then a vulnerable narcissist. Okay, as a child, I'm thinking, and of course, I was made, I guess, programmed to think a certain way about my mother in terms of, hey, look at how outwardly abusive your dad is. I'm so much better because my abuse isn't as easily seen, it's not as easily noticed, and it can be hidden under the guise of, oh, I'm your poor mom and I'm getting abused too. That does not give you a reason to then take it out on someone else. Um, where do I want to go with this? Okay, so growing up young, very, very outwardly apparent of who my father was, what he was about. My sister as well, from a very young age, very abusive. You go and you want to go swimming with your sibling, okay? You want to go have fun at summer break. She would invite me to go swimming with her to then try and drown me in the pool. And this was repeated over most of my childhood. What has choked me unconscious as a child, even as she was an adult and I was still a minor. Um, extreme, extreme physical violence. Um, so having those two people, and I will describe it as my father being what he thought was the ringleader, because at one point he did control the narrative, because even though my mom stood up to him a little bit, she didn't stand up to him all the way, or she could not make it stick. Okay. And then you got my sister as a malignant narcissist, that she had so many similar things as my father did, but the way she worked was she would switch back and forth, being on one family member's side and the other. And something I came upon pretty recently, actually, was that she was someone, she jumped to whatever side was winning. So if there was, um, like, say, maybe it was me and my oldest sibling were, in a fight or an altercation against my father, and we were, so-called winning or whatever, he wasn't getting the result that he wanted, then she would be on our side. But if it was, say, just my father was attacking me physically, verbally, whatever, and you'd have my mom coming in there, like, "Oh, Josh, you need to stop, just stay away from him." Like, yeah, don't look at the person that's abusing your children, just blame your child for being around them. Yeah, got it. And then my sister would jump on the side of my father, verbally attacking me, maybe physically attacking me, to be on his side, to then side with that narcissist. And it would go around and around. Or if I was fighting with just my father and maybe he hadn't done something right for her, they were in a tiff or whatever the hell it was, she would be on my side, because she had to get that vengefulness out and that revenge toward him, so then she would be on the side of the people going against him, and back and forth. And as a child, because I'm the youngest, that was very, very, very disorienting, to say the least. Because it's like, you want to think, for one thing, that nobody in your family is terrible. Nobody in your family would ever want to harm you, which is, in a lot of the cases, untrue. Um, but then to also have a sibling that sometimes they're on your side, sometimes they're not. Something feels wrong about it, but you don't quite know why. Um, like, navigating that, my childhood, my teens, it was more so of, you I knew, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate, is like, something's wrong. You can feel in your chest, in your body, something's wrong about this situation. Like, shit's not adding up right. This is not how things are supposed to be. Um, and that led to, me, like, I in trouble for truancy a lot. Okay, like, my grades tanked, especially the older I got. It was harder and harder to focus and to even care about school, because I was only surviving. I had three people in my life, like two people that were outwardly like, just, "I'm going to tear you down absolutely to the ground, like below the ground." And then I had another person who was doing it on the fly, my mother, under the guise that she was a loving mother. She had just been through so much and yada yada. So, you have nowhere to turn. You don't know where the hell the bad guy's at. You don't know where the danger's at. You feel it. It's like going to war in a submarine, but your radar is broken. You know what I'm saying? It's saying the enemy's over here, but really the enemy's back there. About to catch you off guard. Very disorienting. Um, And then as I got older, not so much in the teen years, but like 17, 18 and up, which is common for a lot of people that have dealt with narcissistic abuse, childhood trauma, is substance use during and after the abuse. So as a teen, smoking weed with my friends, or, stealing a cigarette here and there from my parents, whatever. And then when I was out of that part of the traumatic environment, in terms of I was away from my father and my sister, um, I started to realize as well, and having other people, having a support system outside of my family, you start to catch on to how not okay things were, and how how badly they truly affected you. That led to cocaine use, methamphetamine, muscle relaxers, benzos like Xanax, Ativan, Klonopin, um, alcohol, like all these things to just try and numb the pain, to try and make myself feel, I mean, not even better, just to feel better than I did, just to feel nothing at all. Because, okay, also growing up, like, father and sister were definitely very invalidating. Of course, that's kind of like a hallmark of narcissistic people. But then you go to support for your mother, who is under the guise that she's on your side and good, is invalidating. It's a different kind of feeling. It there's something actually called betrayal trauma. It's a whole whole nother story, whole nother book. Um, So I'm going to her, for support or comfort from what I'm going through from other family members. And you get the classic, oh, just stay away from them. Oh, they're just having a bad day. Oh, I told you not to talk to them today. They were in a bad mood. So then it's just more like someone hit you on the top of the head with a hammer and just pounding you down in the ground till you're just, just your chin up, out. Um, all that invalidation, what fostered guilt, shame, self doubt in myself to where I even doubted whether or not I knew how I felt. So, I guess using substances was kind of a way for me to where I got to dictate. I got to dictate how I felt and when. You know what I'm saying? Um, Eating disorders, again, something very prominent. I'm sure so many of you can relate to. And I do want to break the stigma real quick that not just women get eating disorders. I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa at 15. And on and off for the past probably 13, 14 years, like it's been almost every year. I will gain and lose 60 to 100 pounds. Like I'm coming into summer and I'm underweight, malnourished. I faint if I stand up too fast. And then by the time we're into the new year, I'm struggling to find clothes that fit because I gained fucking 70 pounds in 4 months. Just the back and forth. Um, and eating disorders, we're talking anorexia nervosa, bulimia, um, binge eating disorder, EDNOs, which are what eating disorder not otherwise specified. Correct me if I'm wrong, but something along those lines. These are anxiety disorders. And having been through that, the fact is, I could not control my environment. I could not control how I was treated. I could not even get proper support in my own home from the other people that were getting similar abuse, and I was shut out. I was kept from everybody. Minus when I was at school, I was kept from everybody to keep all this just inside the family circle. So that way, for me to, for one thing, I was also a bigger kid. I was taunted by my family and people at school for my weight. So that definitely helped. But then I realized probably a couple of months into it that I'm like, this is an excellent way to have control. I have no control over anything in my life, but I can play this numbers game. I can decide how I look. I can decide how much weight I lose. And then, that sense of control got out of control because when you have that little sense of control or lack of completely in your environment and you're searching for something like that to give you some sense of control, a lot of people die. Anorexia nervosa has the highest mortality rate out of any mental illness. Um, Again, looking for that sense of control, as well as, obviously, losing weight for society reasons. Um, vanity reasons, yada yada. But that was one way I fought for control in my teenage years. The effects of gaslighting on my view of myself and the world. And not just gaslighting, um, all effects. Even the smear campaigning, um, just every aspect of it. And I don't want to say it didn't change my view on myself and the world, because it created this this view of myself in the world. Um, so I get in a fight with my sister, and then she's messaging all of my friends, or um, I'm saying, posting on like my school Facebook or Twitter page, like all this stuff to embarrass me, humiliate me because I did her wrong, or she perceived that I did. And that inherently, for one thing, that combined with the invalidation, um, minimization, projection. Okay, I'm bringing up, you just punched me in the face and I didn't like that, but well, you know what? You pissed me off. And so many situations similar to that, it makes, okay, maybe I am the asshole. Like, maybe I am the asshole. Maybe this could have been prevented if I just kept my mouth shut. Maybe this could have been prevented if I did or didn't do this or that. And it definitely, I have had such a negative self talk. Still, some days are better than others with that. Um, but it was to the point for a lot of years that anything would go wrong in my life. If somebody broke up with me, if a friend was mad at me, if something didn't work out for me, like it was, okay, it's because you're fat, it's because you're stupid, it's because, I'm saying, you did this, it's because you didn't go out of your way to anticipate their needs, or all these reasons that somehow I was responsible for other people's reactions, or other people's feelings, other people's mental stability or lack of. um and it changed my view even on everybody. I mean, when people are supposed to be your parents, your siblings, and you don't have that sense of safety, sense of support, sense of comfort, um, sense of belonging in something as intimate as like your home setting. Like, I grew up, and even until, like, I'm almost 29, and it took me until probably 24, 25 to really get to the fact that the whole world isn't bad. Not every person has ulterior motives. Not every person is trying to harm me. Not every person is thinking bad things about me. Not every person is trying to go behind my back and hurt me. Not every person is asking me how I am to use things against me. Those are all things that happen in a narcissistic household, and you truly believe, because you deal with so much of that. You, for one thing, you internalize that it's inherently your fault, and because that is inherently your fault, then regardless of who the other person is, they are automatically not going to like you because you're you. They're automatically gonna, what I'm saying, have something bad to say, or pass a judgment on your appearance, your likes, dislikes, etc. And also, back to view of myself. So you get, okay, hold on, rearrange the thoughts here. We'll get back to that because I lost it. But living with a paranoid narcissist. So I guess, to an extent, I mean, I'd say most narcissistic people, at least ones I've encountered, are to a certain degree paranoid, because, what I'm saying, you could be bringing up your feelings, you could be bringing up anything, but if they perceive that it's a hit on them, or it makes them feel uncomfortable, it hits one of their insecurities in some way, they're going to lash out. They're gonna, I'm saying, it's like, oh hey, like, okay, say one of your parents didn't finish high school and you came home, you got this was your midterm and you got 100%. You were fucking proud of yourself. You worked so hard and you can't wait to go home and show your mom. And that person, by you showing her this, which the only purpose of you showing that is because, hey, mom, like, look at me. Like, I tried really hard and it paid off. Like, most parents, healthy parents, would say, good fucking job. Like, let's go out for fucking ice cream, dude. And this parent would say, take that personally and say, oh, wait, like they're trying to take a hit at me, calling me stupid because I didn't finish high school. And then turn into this whole thing of like maybe, oh, you think you're just so much better than everybody, huh? Because you can get good grades or you do good in school. Let's see how well you do when you're in the real world. You know what I'm saying? And turn something good into something terrible because of the perceived hit on their insecurities. Paranoid narcissism in terms of like my father, the way, well, stop right there and say Dr. Ramani actually touched on this. I believe she was talking about the black tetrad, black triad, and it's like things like narcissism, psychopathy, um, sociopathy, or what was the other one? Started with an M, but it was more so of just people kind of like sociopathy to where they just have an inherent need to control other people. So not quite narcissism, not quite, all these other things. But one of them also, she said, I think paranoia should be on there because paranoia, in my experiences, led to some of the worst verbal, physical abuse that I've ever been through. Like, um, quite of the many paranoias my father had was, keep in mind, we lived like 3 miles outside of a small town. Our neighbors, it was mostly farms, so we were quite far apart, but he had this incessant fear that people were watching us. People were looking in the windows. People were trying to break into our house. If we went in public, he'd pull up his pants and say, "Oh, that cashier was looking at me. They probably think I'm stealing. Let them come up to me and I'll show them." Just that deeply, like about absolutely everything, just extreme paranoia to the point of we weren't allowed to do our own laundry. Laundry would pile up, pile up, pile up, pile up, and he would not do it. It had to be like um, at night on the weekend, and he would do it in the basement with the basement lights off. If anybody say we have no fucking school clothes, I ain't got clean underwear or clean jeans, how am I supposed to go to school? Try and do our own laundry, it would be to the point to where he would break that appliance. He would cut the cord on the washer, or break the TV, break the phone, break the computer, whatever, um, because we were not carrying along with his fears. Those were his paranoias, his paranoid thoughts, not ours, but everyone had to play into it. So then, along with like him being a fucking lunatic, say the least, we also, well, with that, we had to, in a way, brainwash ourselves to just go along with it. We had to pipe down and kind of go along with his paranoid delusions and no no illicit drug use. This is just him being himself. Very hard to do, very hard to live with a narcissistic person, let alone malignant, let alone one that has, I'd say, more paranoia than typical, I guess, in terms of my own experiences. um the double betrayal of having a parent who is also abused and defends the abusers. So I touched a bit about this in terms of my mother. And when it comes, oh, this ain't it. So there was things like I told you before, like, oh, oh, just stay away from them. Oh, you knew they were having a bad day, or um, something rather recent in terms of the past couple of years is her defending my sister. My sister, again, is a malignant narcissist. She's extremely physically abusive. She is sexually abusive, verbally abusive, uses all means of smear campaigning, menacing, stalking, coercive control, all of it. And she will use it to the utmost degree to get back at someone for, a perceived injustice or jab. Um, there was issues with her children that they were going through a lot of the same things that happened in mine and my sister's childhood, at her hands. That's also another case of how, you can either, a product of narcissism can be someone that's highly damaged and empathetic, or you can have someone that also turns out with narcissistic qualities as a survival technique. The difference is narcissists aren't going to change. They can't. They lack the self awareness. They lack the empathy. They're not going to. So you can get that out of your head right now. They are not going to. People can change, but most people do not. Um, she defended her, saying, like, oh, pretty much invalidating her own grandchildren, like her children, about the abuse they were sustaining. Oh, well, your mom has epilepsy, which seizure disorder. You don't stress her out. You're getting, the fuck beat out of you. You're fucking, to the point that she would clear out their bedrooms. Like, just when they're at school, only one of them, of course, because there's always the scapegoat, the black sheep, clear out his room. He would come home and all the possessions he held dear were given away or thrown away, a lot of times for no reason, just to inflict that harm on your child, just to have that one up, to put yourself at a step above your child. And, the epilepsy defense, the, oh, she's having a hard time with this, or she's really trying to change, which bullshit, because patterns. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care what anyone else tells me. I watch, I pay attention, and I remember, because patterns don't lie. Patterns do not lie. And like I said in my last video, doesn't matter if you're narcissistic of any kind, psychopathic, sociopathic, whatever it is not that diagnosis or those personality traits that are harmful. It is the behavior that directly harms those around you. The behavior. And when you have patterns of behavior, it's pretty telling of, what the person will do. Okay, you're having a good week, whatever is going good for that narcissistic person. So it's, oh yeah, maybe they are trying to be a better person. They're trying to be a better parent or a better friend or a better sibling, but then something doesn't go their way, or they have you say something that they perceive as a slight or a jab, and then it all goes back. It goes back to maybe the physical abuse, the verbal abuse, smear campaigning, anything to cover up that perceived jab or slight, anything to make them feel inside like they are now a step above. Um, and that, that betrayal trauma, even to this day, defending her, defending my father, who now has, he has high blood pressure. He's in his 60s, high blood pressure from being, to say the least, an asshole all these years. He has multiple brain aneurysms from the life that he has lived, from taking out anger on people all these years, from spending so much time ruminating and plotting on revenge on people that some of them did nothing to him. A lot of the things that he wanted to get revenge on were people trying to escape him, trying to escape his abuse was, not okay in his book. And, my reaction to it was, okay, like, I hope he dies. Like, I do not care. And, oh, that's still your father. He helped to conceive me. He never once acted like a father. He drastically altered the course of what my life would have been and set me back probably decades because of his abuse, but he's still my father. So that just, it is a different kind of invalidation. Um, Especially when someone is supposed to be like your support, and your life raft in this situation, whatever, and then they will take it to their grave. They will defend everything that the narcissistic person does, especially if they are also narcissistic. Um, oh, there's so much to get to. We'll wrap it up for this video, but conclusion is many people deal with narcissistic and or abusive parents, but to have people in a household living a similar type of trauma. They are receiving similar treatment, whether it's physical abuse, like violence, sexual abuse, verbal, emotional, spiritual abuse, combination of all of them. To be sharing that experience with someone, let alone the other parent, and then kind of low key, they are enabling every aspect of that abuse. They something simple as, okay, told you a bit about my sister, the other narcissist, one of them. Um, Hold on, I lost it. Just we'll just go with just like to defend her, the things that she's done, and then to even enable it in terms of to keep the peace. Like my sister could be for no reason. She could just be having a bad day and call my mom out the blue and be like, "Oh, you fat fucking bitch. Like, I hate you. You did this, you did that. You're the reason for everything wrong in the world." And what is my mother's response? To keep the peace. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm wrong. You're right. Like, I'm not being like sarcastic, like that is exactly the tone, the thing she'd say. And okay, it's like, oh yeah, I'm just saying it, like she know. No, you are enabling that. You are reinforcing this abusive behavior, and this is directly going to affect her children. But again, your feelings are not hurt. You feel safe and okay, so fuck everybody else. And the people that are usually at the hands of these people are people that have no choice. Your children, people that look to you for support, guidance, survival. They cannot get away from you even if they wanted to. And that's it. You got to pick on the most vulnerable population. You guys have a good day. Again, I do recommend you seek a licensed psychologist, therapist, social worker, psychiatrist. The purpose of these videos is to share my own experiences as well as the things I've learned over the course of my years in therapy, my own research, to hopefully be able to find a common ground with so many of you. If you have any questions or ideas for future videos or questions, drop it in the comments and we can open up a conversation about this. Like, subscribe, and we will talk soon.